Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about my top 5, there's more than 5, but you know, my top 5 favorite modern classics from the 20th century. The first book we have is Mrs. Dalloway by Virginia Woolf. I read this quite a few years ago now, and this book is following our main character, Clarissa Dalloway. We're following her over the course of one day as she's taking a walk through London, and she is planning a party. And as she's going on her walk throughout the day, she's picking things up for her party, and she is thinking about her life. She's thinking about her past. She's thinking about people that she will be seeing later at the party and the relationships that she's had with them in the past. This is also about post-war. So post-World War I, we hear from the perspective of Septimus Harding, who, that's his name, right? I think so. I think so. We hear from the perspective of Septimus Harding, who is suffering through PTSD after the war. And I think that that is such a cool parallel, and that really highlights the point of this story, is that we have Septimus Harding, who's suffering through PTSD from real war, and then and his wife, who just doesn't understand, and then we have our main character, Clarissa Dalloway, who is suffering through PTSD just of life in general. And I think that that is such a beautiful parallel. I think this is such a powerful book. I think this is genuinely one of the best written books I've ever read in my entire life. And I absolutely adore Virginia Woolf. She is super stream of consciousness, so I don't think that her writing works for everyone, but it works for a lot of people. She's obviously super famous, but I love Mrs. Dalloway. The next book that we have is, gosh, I want it to just be the entire author, but the book that I chose to represent this author is Cat's Cradle. So we have Kurt Vonnegut, and I don't have Cat's Cradle here in my apartment with me, but I love Kurt Vonnegut, okay? I love Kurt Vonnegut so much, it's not even funny. I love the way that man thinks. He's so funny. He's so full of heart and warmth for humanity, but he's also so dry and a little bit pessimistic and bitter. And I just love it. I love it so freaking much, it's not even funny. But Cat's Cradle is the book that I chose to represent him because I love that story and I think about it all the time, and I think that it's very appropriate for our modern day. So Cat's Cradle, he writes primarily a lot of science fiction-y type stuff, but Cat's Cradle is definitely a science fiction, like a literary science fiction book. And we follow a scientist and his family, but a scientist and a reporter. Gosh, I read this a while ago. I think it's a reporter reporting on this scientist who created this substance called Ice-9 that's extremely deadly. So basically, if you touch it or anything touches it, everything containing water that's touching something that's touching something that's touching it freezes. So everything could die, basically. Like if you touch it, you're dead. If anything that you're touching has water in it that's touching it, you're dead. You know what I mean? So this book is an allegory for the atomic bomb. It's about the concept of if you can create something, it doesn't mean, just because you can create something doesn't mean you should create something. It's about the dangers of creation and scientific exploration and progress, and it goes in like a funky direction, as lots of Kurt Vonnegut books do, and I think that it's really quirky and also very quirky and very fascinating. But it's super appropriate for today, and why I think about it so much now is because of AI. And I think that there could potentially, I'm not super educated in that field at all. My partner is really big into AI. He's an engineer, so he's really into all that stuff, and I'm not, you know? So I think that it's something that is an important book for people to read nowadays, especially with the concept of AI in mind. So yeah, Love Kurt Vonnegut. Love everything by Kurt Vonnegut, honestly. Obviously some books I love more than others, but that's Cat's Cradle, okay? So the next book or books that we have is also, yeah, okay. It's kind of just like for the author, but these are also the only 2 books that I've read by this author, so. This is just in one spot, okay? I'm cheating, but I'm not cheating. We have James Baldwin, and we have Giovanni's Room and The Fire Next Time. I just read this last month, and it altered my brain chemistry, but also really reaffirmed so many thoughts that, like, I already had. You know what I mean? It's very reaffirming, but also very educational. Just about the history of the United States, politically and emotionally, spiritually, because with religion and politics and race in the 20th century. So many things that I don't really think I even knew. So very educational. He is such a phenomenal author. Seriously, one of the most beautiful authors I've ever read in my life. And I loved it. I loved both of these so much. But yeah, I read this last month. This is a work of nonfiction. There's 2 nonfiction works in this. One is like 10 pages, and it's a letter that James Baldwin is writing to his nephew, all about what it means to be a Black human in America, specifically a Black man in America at the time. And then the second nonfiction work in this is much longer, and it's an essay kind of on about the same thing. I totally see why this is required reading. I think this is totally required reading if you're at all interested in American literature, people in general, just people, society. This, you know, so phenomenal, and really scarily appropriate for today as well. So that's that. We also have Giovanni's Room. Like I said, this is another book that I think about all the time. All the doodah day, okay? Love this. I read this 3 years ago now. Giovanni's Room. We're following, oh my God, we're following our main character. Is his name David? I think his name is David. It's set in 1950s Paris. 1950s Paris of American expatriates. Yeah, a young dude named David is engaged to be married to this woman. She's not in the story. She's not like currently there. She's off gallivanting elsewhere. But he is in Paris, and he meets this guy, Giovanni, at a bar. I think he's like the bartender at the bar. I don't know. He meets him at the bar, and he falls into this relationship with Giovanni. Clearly, they're like soulmates of a kind. And it's about their relationship with each other. It's about the time that they had together. This is all about internalized homophobia. And it is so sad. I'm gonna cry thinking about it. This book is so sad. Oof. Oof. Oh. Okay, I think I'm gonna be fine. I think I'm gonna be fine. This book is so sad. I think about this book so much in like such a painful way. I'm like legitimately crying in such a painful way. Book-alikes for this I think would be Plato's Symposium, and ooh, there's tears actually going down my face. This is real and this is raw. I'm just gonna keep on keeping on. Yeah, book-alikes would be Plato's Symposium and Andre Osmond's Call Me By Your Name. This is about loneliness, okay? But this is about, how do I word this? It's about the fact that we all exist as individuals, and our time with everyone and anyone in our life and in the world is never permanent. It's never supposed to be permanent. It's not going to be permanent. It cannot be permanent. And you cannot know the interior of a human being really at all. We're having an earthquake. A legitimate earthquake. Whoa. I'm glad I caught that on film. That was a huge earthquake. Okay, well, it was like a moderate. It was like that was an earthquake. It was a big one. My legs are shaking. I felt the whole building. I felt the whole building. Wow, we just had an earthquake. Where did my book go? I just threw it. I panicked. Should I leave the building? No, I think it's fine. I think everything's fine. Okay, let's keep going. You know, we can't be held back by things like this. Okay, we have Giovanni's room. I forgot what I was saying. I was literally crying. I think I was talking about how we're all alone. We're literally all alone, and you can't know people's interior as much as like even if you think you really know them, like everyone is alone. Kids are screaming now. It's fine. Yeah, so super sad book, really beautiful, really powerful. Powerful? That's a word, right? Yeah, powerful. Whoa. Okay, moving on. That's James Baldwin and that's Giovanni's room. The next book we have Revolutionary Road by Richard Yates, which I read last year. And this is a book, I think it's set in the 50s. It might be set in the 60s, but it feels very 50s. And we are following a couple who is married, and they are both wannabe actors. Or they both are actors, but they want to be big stars. And they live in America. Oh, their names are Frank and April. There's a movie, by the way, with Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio that play these characters that I've never seen, but I probably should see it. Yeah, we follow our main characters who are actors, but they want to be like big actors. So they're just kind of acting at their local theater. Our opening scene is their opening night of the play that they're working on. It's going really well in the beginning, and then it just completely flops, and they're miserable. It's about ideas that we have for our life and dreams that we have for our life, and the disparity between our idealizations and the reality of things and the reality of our life. And it's kind of depressing. We see them live a suburban life. They have a home, they're married again, they have kids. They have a relationship with their neighbors that gets kind of weird. And I just think that this is a really, really beautiful, powerful look, again, at our dreams versus at reality, and how we can how we live and accept the facts of our reality. That's Revolutionary Road. I feel kind of scatterbrained now after that earthquake. So yeah. Okay, the next book we have, and I debated putting this on this list because I also just read this last month. So I talked about it much more in my July wrap-up, so go watch that if you want to hear a more in-depth discussion of this or review or my thoughts. But this is Sula by Toni Morrison, and genuinely, I was just astounded by this woman's style of writing. This is another book that talks about, about coming of age. It's another book that is about growing up. It's about a loss of innocence. We hear references to wars, and you know, that's a huge reference to loss of innocence, of a country's loss of innocence, of people's loss of innocence. The fact that violence, violence undertones a lot of things, and we are on the precipice of something potentially violent in just kind of on a constant basis, or we're on the precipice of dangerous things, violence, I guess, on a regular basis. But we follow our two main characters. Well, our main character is Nell, and her friend Sula, who grew up together in this town called The Bottom, which is actually on top of a hill anyway. And it's about the relationship that they have to this place that they grew up in, about a lot of people in the town. It's not just about them. It's about how things happen in their life between them that kind of blows up their relationship. And this is so beautiful. I read out a section in my July wrap-up, so I'll link that down below. And I can't wait to read more Toni Morrison. But I just had to mention it because I really do think, like, maybe if I've read more Toni Morrison, I'd be like not even questioning myself, but I just read it in July. Yeah, I do think it's probably one of the best books, though, of the 20th century, hands down. Yeah, we're just gonna keep on keeping on. Last but not least, we have A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. That's a little bit of a thicker book. I do not have it here with me either. It is at my mom's house on my shelves there. It's about our main character who is an ambulance driver during World War I. He's in Europe. I forget exactly which place in Europe, and I feel kind of stupid for that, but anyway, I digress. What's so moving to me in that book, so it's about him meeting this woman, falling in love with this woman, and planning to have a whole life with this woman, and he survives so much, he goes through so much, and the end is extremely tragic. And it's another kind of story that leaves me with the same thought that stories like Giovanni's Room and Again Call Me By Your Name kind of give me, is that we're all like alone really at the end of the day. We really only have ourselves, and people in our lives and things in our life really are fleeting, no matter how permanent they might feel. And I do believe that, and I feel like that is kind of extremely pessimistic, but hey, it is what it is. Yeah, A Farewell to Arms is a very painful read. I love Ernest Hemingway's writing style. I think that, again, he just had to be on this list because of how unique and influential his writing style is and has been. But I love A Farewell to Arms. I think that it is beautiful and devastating. And yeah, so I'm sorry that there was like an earthquake in the middle of that. It really threw off my brain. Those are my favorite books, favorite modern classics of the 20th century. Please share with me your favorite modern classics from the 20th century down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, thanks so much for watching, and goodbye.